touch on the issue of clinical evidence, because that's something that a lot of companies are concerned about, and for many companies, they see that as the biggest change required by the MDR. In other words, the requirement of additional clinical evidence. So talk a little bit about that, and also the perspective of advising companies how important it is to make sure they kind of limit the approvals they're applying for the applications that they have clinical data that they can support. In other words, that the clinical data coincides, if you will, with what they're seeking the approvals for, as a way that companies can perhaps limit the amount of clinical evidence they have to provide.
Yeah, that's a very critical point to bring here. Indeed, I mean, this whole issue of clinical evidence. I mean, it is among the critical objective of this new regulation was to raise the bar in terms of clinical evidence, and that indeed that the clinical evidence produced was matching, they say, the request of indication. Okay, so don't don't try to ask for a wide indication with a teeny kind of very focused clinical evidence. This has to fit together. So the time of a little bit of clinical efficacy with a big indication, in my mind, that time is over. So now we have to be much more rigorous in terms of, okay, this is the indication, this is the clinical information you provide. You want a wider one, then you got to provide a wider clinical evidence. Okay, and that's a significant change indeed. And the biggest, for me, the biggest impact of this is the level of investment that you're going to put into your clinical evidence development. That's where I stand. I think that as an industry, we were always involved with clinical evidence, obviously. But now this is taking a new dimension. And the new dimension for me at the end is what? Fitting the two together, indication and requested indication or requested use and clinical evidence, okay? And enough of that clinical evidence that there is no ambiguity of it seems to indicate that, no, that will not be enough anymore. At the end, it will require bigger investment in clinical work and most probably more time.